Good evening, dear tutoring partners. My name is Paola Sarmiento, and today I'm going to share with you my reflection and analysis of the qualitative method for the article that I chose. The first thing that I'm going to share with you is the name of the article and a little bit about it. As we can see on the screen, the name of the article is 21st Century Teachers, the Student's Perspective. It's a research done and written by Maida Norami from the University of Palangkaraya in Indonesia. It was published on March 6th, 2017, and it was very interesting to me, and the reason that I actually chose this article is because I think it's a very important and relevant topic for us as future teachers, considering considering that we are preparing to be teachers in the 21st century, and the student's perspective is a very, very important factor, a very relevant and imperative factor for us to know. So I find this research really, I found this research really relevant for today's notion of what education should be. And I think that analyzing the results as well as the methodology and the way the research was conducted is very enriching for us as future English teachers or English teachers in the practice. Okay, so the first thing that we can say about the methodology is there is pretty much a descriptive qualitative research. And the reason why this was done, or the way that this research was done, was through pretty much, or the main method they used was using the survey as the main instrument to collect the data, the information, and then do the analysis. So we can see here in the article that the researcher, the author, explained to us a little bit of what they did or the way they did, and they conducted the recollection and of the information of the data. So he says, a survey research was conducted to collect respondents' opinion as the main source of data to describe whether the 21st century teachers are on the demands and to gain information that the students have a similar perception to teachers' competencies required by the government. 75 questionnaires related to the competencies were given to students of English Education Study Program of 2013 and 2017 and 16. These questionnaires were aimed at collecting written information dealing with what the students perceived towards the activities implemented by the teachers in the process of teaching and learning. Okay, so what we can see here is that the main instrument was a survey. They gave 25 surveys to random students in the campus of the university. And they allowed, she explains in the articles that they allowed uh, to the students to take the questionnaires home or have them with them for a few days so they can answer it with conscience, taking the time, etc. From these 75 questionnaires, they only got in return, or they were only returned 60 of them. So after they have all of the surveys, or the surveys that they could recollect, he explains to us here that he made a plan, a design for the questionnaires and how it's going to be conducted. So in page 85, we can see, so I can show you. All right, as we were seeing before, he says right here the type of the type of qualitative research that they conducted in this study. So he says, to analyze the subject's responsive, it was applied the qualitative approach to get a descriptive conclusion. The researchers employed the model of qualitative data analysis from Miles and Hoberman. Also, okay, so we can see here two kinds of models or methodologies. The first one is a descriptive qualitative research. But the other type of research that we can see they applied here is also the phenomenological method of qualitative research, which is pretty much the analysis of the experience and the feelings and how the participants feel when a certain activity or situation or phenomenon happens. So in this case, for example, they're analyzing how the students feel towards the activities or towards the competence and performance of the teachers in the classroom through the activities of everyday school process. So all the questions, as we are going to see in a few moments, all the questions were directed to study the phenomenon and the situations and the feeling of the participants during the classes, this and how this phenomenon could give them a perspective of what a teacher should be in the 21st century. So as we can see here, a little bit lower in the article, let me show you. We can see that the research made a map or a drawing of what the different steps were going to be in the during the research with the questionnaires. So the first thing is that they were open-ended questionnaires applied and collected from to gather the opinions from the students. So step number one, they noted the patterns and responses. After that, they were seeing the plausibility of the questionnaire. And then they were doing the categories and preparing and matching the responses in percentage, and then finally the data analysis. Okay, after they collected all the reading opinions, they decided that it was important to have another methods or another instruments, extra instruments, in order to assure the viability and the validity of the research. So if the questionnaires were somehow um, so they were somehow contaminated or maybe manipulated in some way, they were going to use extra instruments. And the other two instruments they used besides the survey was some interviews and observations. And in these observations, they observe some of the students randomly during the break time in the campus, trying to get information from the observations of how they feel, how they behave during these moments of the day. Around 5 students, I think. Interviews different from the surveys, trying to compare and compare the opinions during the interviews and the answers of the survey. This way, the answers and the data, the information could be more reliable and more trustworthy. So they used survey as an instrument, and interviews and observations would give us the idea or give us the key to describe for the descriptive qualitative research. So we can say that they use the phenomenological method as well as the description or descriptive methodology for research. Okay, so after they recollect the 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 answers, they recollect the opinions, the information. This was what you can see here in this map. um, these were like the steps they got after that to make the analysis of the results. So they started by comparing the responses, and then partitioning the variables, generalizing and factoring, then relating the variables and finding the intervening variable, then after that making the logical change, and finally drawing the data conclusion. So see that the methodology that they used to analyze this after that. It was just making the categories for each of the open questions. Because it's an open-ended survey, it's not as easy as the quantitative research to analyze the result, because it's not statistics but it's personal opinions. So what they did, and what we can see here in the article, is that they made categories for each of the questions, 6 questions in total. And within each question, they made 3 categories of what kind of responses they could do. So once they have the categories, they did it manually, trying to compare all the categories. And then finally, let me get this here.